Hello and welcome back to Safety for Cruisers. If you don't know me, my name is Eitan, and today we are going to be talking about water intrusion. So there's three kind of main categories of emergencies on boats: fire, water intrusion, and man overboard. So this is number 2 of 3. And we're going to start out going over some of the things I have in my leak kit, some of the common sources of kind of routine water intrusion, I guess, and then moving into some of the catastrophic ones. So in our leak kit, we have things that are designed to address the more mechanical and routine sources of water intrusion from a boat. One of the most common ones is going to be your through hulls. So you want to make sure that your through hulls are bedded well, that they are nice, high quality bronze fittings. The plastic through hulls is just not going to cut it in my opinion. And you want to make sure that you're exercising them regularly. But even if you do all of that, there is a chance that they can fail just due to the nature of the fitting. And so the best thing to do to mitigate that risk is to have a properly sized bung, which is one of these big old wood plugs, properly sized for the through hull, taped to the hose of the that's connected to that fitting. And that way, if you open up the cubby or wherever that through hull is hiding and you see a bunch of water pouring into your boat, all you have to do is rip that bung right off, jam it in that hole, and then grab something and hammer that thing in there. It stops the water leak. One of the most common sources of water intrusion and one of the easiest to mitigate. So if you're ever on a boat and they don't have bungs taped to their through hulls, you should ask somebody why that is. Going into the leak kit here, in addition to the bungs that we have, you'll see we've got some plumbing tape, some rescue plumbing tape, which just basically a little bit high pressure can be wrapped around pretty much any hose to stop that leak. It's not going to take 100 psi, but fresh water hose or a raw water intake hose can potentially slow that leak down. We have a dedicated plumbing and hose repair kit here that's an epoxy base basically. Have the good old 5200 if you want to piss somebody off down the line. From the old days, we have shaft packing. So Sierra Wind has a PSS dripless shaft seal, and I love it. It is working great, knock on wood. Have had problems with those before. Just because they're dripless doesn't mean they're maintenance free. You need to be inspecting them, and one of the things to make sure you inspect, and this can be very difficult, like on this boat, is you want to make sure that the hose clamps that are around that rubber boot are fully intact and free of corrosion and rust. So that includes looking all the way underneath them and making sure that they're not corroding from the bottom up. Ask me how I know. So yeah, we don't really use the packing, but it's good to have on board for a variety of different reasons, so we keep that in there. Marine Text is good. This stuff is fantastic here. We have 3 different epoxies. We've got aluminum, regular kind of multi-purpose, and then steel epoxy. Basically they're just little tubes of epoxy that you can cut to size, mesh up between your fingers, and if there's a hole in X, Y, or Z, aluminum, steel, or something else, you jam that in there, hold pressure until it hardens, and you've got a pretty good way of stopping a leak. Or in covered marine text, got a little kind of adjustable plug there. This is just a hose jacket that can be good to apply to harder hoses. And we've got a variety of other stuff on board, but this is the things that we have in the leak kit. The last thing to cover is going to be our manual bilge handle. So, going on to some of the less common sources of water intrusion. We're going to hit those before we talk about dewatering pumps and equipment. You've got kind of your first stuff, like we talked about, is going to be the mechanical source. That's why all the hoses, fittings, everything on board need to be inspected, and you need to have equipment to mitigate the hazards posed by whether it's your raw water system or your freshwater system. Obviously, fresh is better than raw because there's a limited supply on board, but some boats have enough tankage to sink a boat with their fresh water, so you need to make sure you're inspecting that system as well. Raw water can obviously be a big issue because you got a water pump attached to the engine that's just sucking water in, and if that's not making it to the engine or there's a leak somewhere, you get a lot of water building up really fast. One of the really cool things that we'll show you a little kind of zoom in here, this year one has is a raw water bilge pickup. So it's an alternate source for the engine to draw from. Say we had water intrusion that we couldn't cope with just our pumps, we could actually switch this Y valve over, and you would be able to suck from the bilge, and that drastically increases your dewatering capacity. So moving on to some less common sources of water intrusion. One thing that can happen is you can hit stuff. So, if there's a shipping container, if there's a whale, if there's a log, or if you're just not navigating well and there's a rock, you can hit stuff and you can punch some pretty big holes in the side. There's lots of YouTube videos about super crazy ways to use sheets and sails and pillows and all kinds of different ways to mitigate large volume leaks. Basically, the idea is to get something. Initially, you're just concerned about stopping the water coming into the boat. So whatever you can reach, whatever is within grasping distance, grab something and stick it in the hole. It doesn't matter if it's a pillow, if it's a towel, could be a sheet, it could be a jacket, whatever it is, get something in there to stem the flow of that water. Once you've got that kind of initial panicky hazard mitigated, then you can start thinking about some more long-term and more final solutions to that problem. So that could be something where you dive from the outside and you smear a bunch of underwater epoxy on there. You could do that from the inside, just do a big coating over whatever you have. The key is, though, you want to obviously keep as much water outside the boat as possible. So more often than not, whatever you have in there at first, if you don't need to take that out, try to keep it in there. So even if it's your favorite towel, maybe you just keep that towel in there and you get another one. Trying to pull stuff out and then re-jam stuff in leads to a lot more problems than it usually solves. So once that big leak is in there, you want to try to kind of go to a plan B. Inside and outside, you want to kind of think critically. There's all kinds of different crazy things where you can try to put a string through and pull a sail from the outside to the inside. You can get really creative, but the bottom line is you need to stop the water coming in. Once you stop the water coming in and you've kind of gotten over that initial panic mode, you want to try to not only dewater the boat, but you want to work on that secondary solution. And after that, once you have that entire hazardous situation mitigated, you want to figure out what you're going to do next. So if it means that you can only sail at 2 knots, or you can only motor at 3 knots or 6 knots where your normal hull speed is 12, then hey, that's what it's got to be. You need to make sure that you are treating that injury that the boat sustained with care, and that you're not going to aggravate that injury and turn that into a larger issue. So going into dewatering operations now. My preference is to have at least one electric and at least one manual bilge pump on board at all times on any vessel I'm on. A lot of different boats will have multiple electric, but some don't have a manual. It's less common nowadays, but you still find that somewhere. So you want to make sure that the pumps are running, that they are connected properly, and that they are in good condition. So you want to do a visual inspection. You want to make sure there's nothing jamming up the intake. You want to make sure that the wires are connected with waterproof heat shrink connectors, so that if water does overwhelm the pumps, they're not going to short out as that water rises further. The system that we have, we'll try to get a good shot inside the bilge here of Sierra Wind, is we have a single, our primary bilge pump is down low in the bottom, our secondary bilge pump is just a little bit higher, and then we have a high water alarm on top of the primary bilge pump. So if pumps 1 and 2 get overwhelmed, we will have an alarm that will go off, and you'll be able to hear that and know there's something wrong. We'll actually know before, because our VSM that's up here actually has a connection to our primary bilge pump, so I can see how many minutes it's run in the last hour and how many times it's cycled in the last 24 hours. So this can be very good when you're trending things. Say you have a slow leak from your raw water pump. You know, it's only a little drip drip, but you want to be able to keep tabs on that on a passage before you can make repairs to it. If you have a way of counting your bilge cycles, which the system does, you'd be able to tally that, and you'd be able to trend it and see, is it getting better, is it getting worse, what's going on. So you want to know when your bilge pumps are going off, which could mean an alarm, it could mean the VSM, it could mean a light in the cockpit. But if you just have your switches down below and you have no way of seeing when the pumps are going off besides hearing them, that can potentially lead to a problem going undetected for quite a while. So in addition to our 2 electric bilge pumps and our high water alarm, we also have a manual bilge pump. So this is what this handle is for, in addition to hitting disobedient crew. So this is going to be great because it doesn't matter what's going on with your power, with your batteries, whatever it is, you put this handle in and you pump away. You can eject water from the boat just as fast as your little arms can pump it. There's lots of different pumps out there. Some are dual stroke, some are single, just depends on the model. We have a whale pump. It's the whale gusher, and it's a good fit for us. And something that we did that was a bit unique is that we opted for a it's not a pre-connected bilge uptake. So we'll put a little shot here. We have the discharge hooked up to our through hull, but our intake is just this male 1-inch fitting. And then we have a 15-foot length of suction hose that we can take and we can put anywhere in the boat. And the reason that I opted for this instead of pre-plumbing it is that even though my main bilge is under the engine, that's where water is going to gravity feed to. Say there was a catastrophic leak in the bow of the boat, we got a lot of weight up there. We've got anchor, 320 feet of chain. We got all kinds of stuff on the bow. The bow is going to most likely be where the boat goes down from. And so if there was a large water intrusion there, I don't want to have to wait until that water makes its way back to the main bilge for the pumps to take it out. I want to be able to take that hose out, jam it onto that fitting, stick it in the very front of the bilge that is up underneath the V-berth, and start pumping manually there. And that way you have a bit more of a front line. You're not waiting for all that water to run back. It's a system that can work for some. It works for us. It's just something you need to figure out individually on your own. And that is Kismet calling us, so that is going to wrap our video. Tune in for the next one.